As the gentle evening tide laps against the ancient stone quays of prehistoric harbors now buried beneath centuries of coastal sediment, where the eternal rhythms of Atlantic civilization once guided sophisticated maritime communities across vast networks of cultural exchange and technological innovation, we drift tonight into the remarkable story of Europe's lost oceanic civilization, the Atlantic Bronze Age culture that flourished between 1300 and 700 BCE while connecting distant coastal communities from the highlands of Scotland to the sun-drenched shores of Portugal through shared technologies, common burial practices, and systematic maritime trade that would not be equaled again until the age of medieval exploration. Let your mind float peacefully through the quiet contemplation of these ancient seafaring peoples, whose patient mastery of bronze working, astronomical navigation, and boat construction enabled them to maintain cultural connections across hundreds of miles of open ocean while developing sophisticated approaches to coastal living that sustained prosperous communities for over 6 centuries. Close your eyes and feel the profound sense of oceanic unity that must have characterized these Bronze Age mariners as they recognized kinship with distant peoples who shared their roundhouse architecture, their systematic approaches to metalworking, and their reverent treatment of sacred sites where precious bronze objects were deposited in rivers, lakes, and rocky outcrops as offerings to the mysterious forces that governed both terrestrial prosperity and maritime safety. Picture yourself standing on the windswept cliffs of ancient Cornwall around 1000 BCE, where the eternal Atlantic waves crash against granite headlands that have witnessed 3 millennia of human occupation, feeling the presence of Bronze Age communities whose sophisticated understanding of tidal patterns, seasonal weather, and celestial navigation enabled them to maintain regular contact with kindred peoples across the dangerous waters that separate southwestern England from Brittany, Western Ireland, and the distant shores of Atlantic Spain. The cultural landscape that surrounded these ancient mariners included not only the practical infrastructure of harbors, fish weirs, and boat-building facilities, but also the spiritual architecture of stone circles, burial cairns, and cliff-top sanctuaries that served both astronomical observation and religious ceremony while reinforcing the cultural identity that connected Atlantic communities across vast geographical distances. The systematic archaeological investigation that has revealed the sophistication of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization began with the pioneering excavations at sites like Skara Brae in Orkney, where remarkably preserved Neolithic village structures dating to 3180 BCE demonstrate the continuity of advanced stone architecture and maritime adaptation that would characterize Atlantic communities throughout the Bronze Age period. The careful analysis of artifact distributions, trade networks, and cultural similarities has enabled contemporary archaeologists to recognize that what appeared to be isolated prehistoric communities were actually participants in comprehensive exchange systems that facilitated the movement of people, technologies, and ideas across the entire Atlantic facade of Europe. Watch as the evidence unfolds through the patient work of maritime archaeologists who have identified the distinctive characteristics that define Atlantic Bronze Age culture. The widespread use of socket bronze axes and carp-tongue swords that appear in hordes from Galicia to Scotland, the construction of similar roundhouse settlements and cliff-top fortifications that suggest shared architectural traditions, the systematic deposition of valuable metalwork in watery contexts that indicates common ritual practices, and the presence of exotic materials like amber from the Baltic and gold from Ireland in sites throughout the Atlantic network. These material connections demonstrate not merely occasional contact but sustained cultural exchange that maintained technological standards and artistic traditions across distances that would challenge even modern transportation systems. The maritime technologies that enabled Atlantic Bronze Age civilization reflect remarkable sophistication in boat construction, navigation, and seamanship that rivaled the achievements of Mediterranean civilizations while operating in the far more challenging conditions of Atlantic weather and oceanic distances. The archaeological evidence for prehistoric seafaring includes not only the obvious necessity of water transport for island communities like those in Orkney and the Hebrides, but also the systematic exploitation of marine resources, the construction of sophisticated harbor facilities, and the development of specialized fishing technologies that enabled coastal communities to support dense populations through intensive maritime adaptation, the cultural networks that characterized the Atlantic Bronze Age extended far beyond mere economic exchange to encompass shared approaches to social organization, religious practice, and technological innovation that created remarkable uniformity across communities separated by hundreds of miles of dangerous ocean. The appearance of similar burial practices, architectural styles, and artistic motifs from Portugal to Scotland suggests systematic cultural transmission that required regular contact and deliberate maintenance of traditional knowledge across multiple generations of maritime specialists who served as both traders and cultural ambassadors. The temporal framework within which Atlantic civilization flourished spans the crucial centuries between 1300 and 700 BCE, when Bronze Age technologies reached their highest development, while Mediterranean civilizations were experiencing the upheavals that would eventually lead to the collapse of palace cultures and the emergence of Iron Age societies. The Atlantic communities, protected by their oceanic isolation and sustained by their sophisticated maritime adaptation, continued flourishing during this period of Mediterranean instability while maintaining technological traditions and cultural practices that would influence later Celtic civilizations. The archaeological methodology that has enabled modern understanding of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization involves systematic application of scientific techniques including radiocarbon dating, chemical analysis of metal compositions, paleo-environmental reconstruction, and comparative study of artifact distributions that create comprehensive pictures of ancient cultural systems. The careful excavation of settlement sites, burial monuments, and ritual deposits has revealed the sophisticated material culture and complex social organization that supported Atlantic communities while demonstrating their remarkable achievements in maritime technology and long-distance communication. The geographical scope of Atlantic civilization encompasses the entire western seaboard of Europe, from the fjords of western Norway through Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, and the Atlantic coasts of Spain and Portugal, creating a cultural zone that shared more characteristics with each other than with their inland neighbours. This oceanic orientation reflects the fundamental importance of maritime resources and sea-based transportation for communities that found in the Atlantic not a barrier but a highway that connected distant peoples through shared environmental challenges and common technological solutions. The economic foundations that supported Atlantic Bronze Age prosperity included not only the obvious maritime resources of fish, seals, and seabirds but also the systematic exploitation of mineral deposits. Particularly the tin mines of Cornwall and the copper sources of Ireland and Wales, that provided essential raw materials for bronze production while creating networks of exchange that brought gold, amber, and other exotic materials to Atlantic communities. The evidence for systematic metalworking includes not only finished products but also the specialized tools, crucibles, and workshop facilities that demonstrate local expertise in bronze casting and finishing. The social organization that enabled Atlantic civilization to maintain its cultural coherence across such vast distances likely involved specialized classes of mariners, metalworkers, and ritual specialists who served as the carriers of technological knowledge and cultural traditions between distant communities, while maintaining the religious and ceremonial practices that reinforced group identity and intercommunity solidarity. The archaeological evidence suggests hierarchical societies with clear distinctions between elite and common burials while also indicating considerable social mobility and technological innovation. The religious dimensions of Atlantic Bronze Age culture include the systematic deposition of valuable metalwork in rivers, lakes, and springs that suggests sophisticated theological concepts about the relationship between human communities and natural forces, while the construction of stone circles and other astronomical monuments demonstrate systematic observation of celestial cycles and their integration with agricultural and maritime activities. These ritual practices created shared spiritual frameworks that reinforced cultural identity while providing practical knowledge about seasonal timing and navigation. The technological innovations that distinguish Atlantic Bronze Age civilization include not only advances in metallurgy and boat construction, but also sophisticated understanding of harbor engineering, fish preservation, textile production, and ceramic manufacture that enabled coastal communities to maintain high living standards, while supporting specialized craftspeople and long-distance traders. The evidence for technological exchange includes not only finished products but also the specialized knowledge required for their production and use. The legacy of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization extends far beyond its immediate historical period to influence the development of Celtic cultures, Roman maritime technology, and medieval Atlantic exploration while providing modern communities with valuable insights into sustainable coastal living and the possibilities for cultural cooperation across political boundaries. The patient work of both ancient Atlantic peoples and contemporary archaeologists continues, revealing new dimensions of this remarkable oceanic civilization, while demonstrating how maritime adaptation can create prosperity and cultural sophistication in challenging environmental conditions. As we begin this gentle exploration of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization, we enter a realm where patient archaeological investigation meets ancient maritime wisdom, where the systematic study of stone tools and bronze artifacts illuminates sophisticated approaches to oceanic living that sustained prosperous communities across 6 centuries of cultural development. The eternal rhythm of tidal cycles and the timeless patterns of seasonal navigation carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable technological achievements of ancient Atlantic peoples and the dedicated scientific work that enables contemporary understanding of how maritime civilization can create cultural networks that transcend geographical boundaries while fostering innovation, prosperity, and social cooperation across diverse environmental conditions and historical circumstances. As the gentle bronze-colored sunrise illuminates the ancient stone circles that dot the Atlantic coastline from the Shetland Islands to the mountains of Galicia, where weathered megaliths stand as eternal sentinels marking the sophisticated astronomical knowledge of Bronze Age communities, we drift tonight into the remarkable 6th century period between 1300 and 700 BCE, when Atlantic civilization reached its zenith through systematic networks of maritime trade, cultural exchange, and monumental architecture that connected distant coastal peoples in ways that would not be achieved again until the rise of medieval maritime commerce. Let your mind float peacefully through the patient rhythms of this Atlantic Bronze Age, where skilled metalworkers cast identical socket axes and elegant carp-tongue swords in workshops from Cornwall to Portugal, while maintaining shared ritual practices that deposited precious bronze objects in sacred waters as offerings to the mysterious forces that governed both terrestrial prosperity and oceanic safety. Close your eyes and feel the profound cultural unity that characterized these centuries of Atlantic cooperation, where communities separated by hundreds of miles of dangerous ocean maintained remarkably similar approaches to house construction, burial practices, and ceremonial monument building, while developing the sophisticated maritime technologies and navigation skills necessary for regular contact across the tempestuous waters of the North Atlantic and Bay of Biscay. Picture yourself among the master bronze smiths working in their specialized workshops around 1000 BCE. Where the patient application of ancient metallurgical knowledge enables the creation of beautiful and functional objects that will travel across vast oceanic distances to reach kindred communities who share not only technological standards, but also the cultural values and spiritual practices that make such objects meaningful as both practical tools and ceremonial offerings. The systematic analysis of bronze compositions has revealed that Atlantic Bronze Age metalworkers employed remarkably consistent alloy recipes and casting techniques across their entire cultural network, suggesting not merely occasional contact but sustained technological exchange that maintained quality standards and artistic traditions despite the geographical challenges that separated different production centers. The monumental architecture that characterizes the Atlantic Bronze Age. Landscape reflects both practical astronomical knowledge and sophisticated social organization, where communities invested enormous collective effort in constructing stone circles, passage tombs, and ceremonial complexes that served simultaneously as calendrical devices, burial sites, and focal points for ritual activities that reinforced cultural identity while demonstrating the mathematical and engineering capabilities of prehistoric Atlantic peoples. The careful alignment of these monuments with solar and lunar cycles indicates systematic observation of celestial patterns that enabled accurate prediction of seasonal changes essential for both agricultural timing and maritime navigation. Watch as the archaeological evidence reveals the systematic nature of Atlantic Bronze Age cultural networks through the distribution of distinctive artifact types that appear simultaneously across vast geographical ranges, suggesting coordinated production systems and regular communication between distant communities rather than random diffusion of isolated innovations. The socket bronze axes that appear in hordes from Scotland to Spain demonstrate not only shared technological traditions but also common approaches to ritual deposition that indicate shared religious beliefs about the proper relationship between human communities and natural forces. The maritime infrastructure that supported Atlantic Bronze Age civilization included sophisticated harbor facilities, fish weirs, and coastal settlements that demonstrate remarkable engineering capabilities adapted to local tidal conditions and geological constraints while maintaining functional similarities that suggest shared architectural traditions and construction techniques. The systematic investigation of prehistoric harbors has revealed evidence for deliberate harbor improvement, including breakwaters, quays, and boat-building facilities that enabled communities to maintain fleets of seagoing vessels capable of carrying both passengers and cargo across dangerous oceanic distances. The cultural exchange mechanisms that enabled Atlantic Bronze Age civilization to maintain its coherence across such vast distances likely involved specialized classes of maritime traders, who served not only as transporters of goods, but also as carriers of technological knowledge, artistic styles, and ritual practices between distant communities while maintaining the personal relationships and cultural understanding necessary for successful long-distance commerce in societies that lacked formal commercial institutions or standardized currency systems. The chronological framework of the Atlantic Bronze Age spans the crucial centuries when Mediterranean Bronze Age civilizations were experiencing the disruptions and collapses that characterized the Late Bronze Age crisis, while Atlantic communities continued flourishing through their oceanic isolation and sophisticated maritime adaptation that enabled them to maintain prosperity and cultural development despite the instability affecting other European regions. The radiocarbon dating of Atlantic Bronze Age sites demonstrates remarkable cultural continuity and gradual technological development, rather than the dramatic disruptions that characterized contemporary Mediterranean societies. The technological innovations that distinguish the Atlantic Bronze Age include not only advances in metallurgy and boat construction, but also sophisticated understanding of textile production, ceramic manufacture, and food preservation that enabled coastal communities to support dense populations while maintaining the specialized craftspeople and long-distance traders necessary for interregional cultural exchange. The archaeological evidence suggests that Atlantic Bronze Age communities achieved levels of technological sophistication and social organization that rivaled contemporary Mediterranean civilizations while operating in more challenging environmental conditions. The ritual landscape of the Atlantic Bronze Age encompasses not only the obvious ceremonial monuments like stone circles and passage tombs, but also the systematic deposition of valuable metalwork in rivers, lakes, springs, and coastal waters that suggests sophisticated theological concepts about the relationship between human communities and natural forces, while providing practical mechanisms for redistributing wealth and maintaining social cohesion within and between different communities. The careful analysis of depositional contexts has revealed systematic patterns that indicate formal ritual protocols rather than random or accidental losses. The social organization that supported Atlantic Bronze Age civilization likely involved hierarchical societies with clear distinctions between elite and common burials, while also maintaining considerable social mobility and technological innovation that enabled talented individuals to achieve high status through specialized skills in metallurgy, navigation, or ritual knowledge. The archaeological evidence suggests complex societies that combined aristocratic leadership with democratic participation in community decisions about resource allocation and intercommunity relationships. The economic foundations of Atlantic Bronze Age prosperity included systematic exploitation of both marine and terrestrial resources, where communities developed sophisticated understanding of seasonal patterns that enabled optimal harvesting of fish, seabirds, and marine mammals, while also maintaining agricultural systems and mineral extraction operations that provided essential raw materials for bronze production and trade with distant communities. The evidence for economic specialization includes workshop areas dedicated to specific crafts and storage facilities that suggest systematic resource management and surplus production. The artistic achievements of the Atlantic Bronze Age encompass not only the functional beauty of bronze tools and weapons, but also sophisticated rock art, ceramic decoration, and textile production that demonstrate remarkable aesthetic sensitivity and technical skill while maintaining distinctive regional styles that contribute to overall Atlantic Bronze Age cultural identity. The systematic analysis of artistic motifs has revealed both local innovations and shared symbolic systems that suggest common mythological and religious traditions. The defensive installations that characterize many Atlantic Bronze Age sites include cliff-top fortifications, stone-walled enclosures, and strategically located watchtowers that suggest both the need for protection against hostile neighbors and the sophisticated military organization necessary for coordinated defense of coastal territories and maritime trade routes. The evidence for defensive planning indicates that Atlantic Bronze Age communities possessed considerable expertise in military engineering and strategic planning. The environmental context within which Atlantic Bronze Age civilization flourished included both favorable climatic conditions that supported agricultural productivity and challenging oceanic conditions that required sophisticated maritime adaptation while providing opportunities for cultural exchange and resource exploitation that were unavailable to inland communities. The paleo-environmental evidence suggests that Atlantic Bronze Age communities achieved sustainable relationships with their coastal environments that enabled long-term prosperity and cultural development. The linguistic implications of Atlantic Bronze Age cultural unity remain largely speculative due to the absence of written records, but the remarkable similarities in material culture, ritual practices, and technological traditions suggest either common linguistic heritage or systematic, multilingual communication networks that enabled cultural transmission across linguistic boundaries. The place name evidence and later Celtic linguistic distributions provide tantalizing hints about possible Atlantic Bronze Age linguistic relationships. The comparative significance of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization extends beyond its immediate historical importance to encompass its contribution to understanding how maritime adaptation can create cultural networks that transcend political boundaries while fostering technological innovation and social cooperation across diverse environmental conditions. The success of Atlantic Bronze Age communities in maintaining cultural coherence across vast oceanic distances provides valuable insights into the possibilities for peaceful international cooperation and sustainable coastal development as we contemplate the remarkable achievements of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization during its 6th century flourishing between 1300 and 700 BCE. We witness how systematic maritime adaptation and sophisticated bronze-working technology enabled coastal communities to create cultural networks that spanned the entire Atlantic facade of Europe, while maintaining local autonomy and regional diversity. The patient work of both ancient Atlantic peoples and contemporary archaeologists continues, revealing new dimensions of this oceanic civilization, while demonstrating how cultural cooperation and technological innovation can overcome geographical barriers to create prosperity, artistic achievement, and social development that serves human flourishing across diverse historical circumstances and environmental challenges. The gentle rhythm of tidal cycles and the eternal patterns of seasonal navigation carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable cultural achievements of Atlantic Bronze Age communities and the dedicated archaeological work that enables contemporary understanding of how maritime civilization can foster international cooperation while maintaining cultural diversity and technological innovation across the vast expanse of oceanic heritage and coastal adaptation. As the gentle morning tide reveals the ancient stone fish weirs that line the prehistoric harbours of Brittany, where the eternal rhythms of Atlantic seafaring have left their patient archaeological signature in carefully constructed harbour works and systematically arranged fishing installations, we drift tonight into the remarkable evidence for prehistoric ocean voyages. The sophisticated maritime technologies and navigation skills that enabled Atlantic Bronze Age communities to maintain regular contact across hundreds of miles of dangerous open water while developing boat-building techniques that would not be surpassed until the medieval period. Let your mind float peacefully through the quiet satisfaction of ancient mariners who possessed intimate knowledge of tidal patterns, seasonal weather changes, and celestial navigation methods that enabled them to undertake systematic voyages between distant coastal communities while maintaining the cultural and technological exchange networks that characterized Atlantic civilization for over 6 centuries. Close your eyes and feel the profound confidence that must have characterized these prehistoric seafarers as they launched their carefully constructed vessels into the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic, guided by generations of accumulated wisdom about ocean currents, wind patterns, and the subtle environmental indicators that enabled safe navigation across vast expanses of open sea where modern sailors would require sophisticated instruments and detailed charts to achieve similar levels of maritime competence and safety. Picture yourself standing beside the Dover Bronze Age boat around 1600 BCE, where patient archaeological excavation has revealed one of humanity's oldest known seagoing vessels, a remarkable 9.5-meter craft constructed from half-oak logs with side panels stitched together using U-bindings according to sophisticated boat-building techniques that demonstrate prehistoric understanding of hull design, structural engineering, and material selection that enabled this ancient vessel to carry significant cargo loads while maintaining seaworthiness in challenging Atlantic conditions. The careful reconstruction experiments conducted by modern maritime archaeologists have confirmed that this prehistoric boat could achieve speeds of up to 5 knots while carrying crews of 4 to 16 paddlers across distances of 30 nautical miles per day, demonstrating the remarkable capabilities that enabled Bronze Age communities to maintain regular maritime contact across the dangerous waters separating different Atlantic coastal regions. The systematic analysis of prehistoric boat building technologies reveals sophisticated understanding of wood selection, joining techniques, and waterproofing methods that enabled ancient craftsmen to create vessels capable of withstanding the extreme conditions encountered during Atlantic voyages, where sudden storms, high waves, and cold temperatures created challenges that required both technical expertise and considerable practical experience to navigate successfully. The archaeological evidence includes not only the actual boat remains discovered in sites like Dover, but also the specialized tools, construction materials, and workshop facilities that demonstrate comprehensive boat-building industries capable of producing fleets of ocean-going vessels according to standardized design principles and quality control methods. Watch as the evidence for prehistoric deep-sea fishing unfolds through the systematic analysis of coastal middens from Scotland to Portugal, where the presence of pelagic fish species like tuna, cod, and deep-water rays indicates that ancient communities were regularly venturing far from shore to exploit marine resources that could only be obtained through extended ocean voyages requiring sophisticated navigation skills and seaworthy vessels capable of operating safely in open Atlantic waters. The careful excavation of these ancient refuse deposits has revealed not only the bones of deep-sea fish but also the specialized hooks, lines, and nets necessary for ocean fishing, while providing evidence for the systematic processing and preservation techniques that enabled coastal communities to maintain year-round supplies of marine protein through seasonal fishing expeditions. The harbour engineering evidence that characterizes many Atlantic Bronze Age sites demonstrates remarkable understanding of coastal geology, tidal mechanics, and maritime infrastructure requirements, where prehistoric communities constructed sophisticated systems of breakwaters, quays, and boat launching facilities that enabled safe harbour operations while providing protected storage for fleets of seagoing vessels during winter storms and seasonal maintenance periods. The stonefish weirs discovered along the French Atlantic coast represent particularly impressive examples of prehistoric marine engineering, with carefully arranged stone barriers that create systematic fish traps utilizing tidal flow patterns to capture large quantities of marine resources while demonstrating sophisticated understanding of coastal hydraulics and ecological cycles. The navigation techniques that enabled prehistoric Atlantic voyages likely involved comprehensive knowledge of celestial patterns, seasonal wind changes, ocean current systems, and coastal landmark recognition that enabled experienced mariners to undertake extended voyages across open water while maintaining accurate directional orientation and distance estimation sufficient for safe arrival at intended destinations. The astronomical alignments incorporated into many Atlantic Bronze Age monuments suggest that coastal communities possessed systematic knowledge of solar and lunar cycles that could serve navigation purposes, while the widespread distribution of identical artifact types across vast oceanic distances indicates regular and successful completion of challenging maritime journeys. The maritime adaptation evidence preserved in sites like Teviot Island in Brittany reveals communities that had achieved complete dependence on marine resources while developing sophisticated understanding of seasonal migration patterns, sustainable harvesting techniques, and systematic resource management that enabled dense populations to thrive in coastal environments through intensive exploitation of shellfish, fish, seabirds, and marine mammals. The careful spacing of shell middens around the island demonstrates systematic rotation of harvesting areas that allowed marine resources to regenerate while communities moved seasonally between different exploitation zones according to sophisticated understanding of ecological sustainability. The prehistoric paddle evidence discovered in waterlogged contexts throughout the Atlantic region includes beautifully crafted implements with distinctive leaf-shaped blades attached to carefully proportioned handles that demonstrate both functional efficiency and artistic sophistication, while suggesting standardized design principles that enabled effective propulsion of large boats across challenging oceanic conditions. The systematic analysis of paddle construction techniques has revealed sophisticated understanding of wood grain selection, hydrodynamic principles, and ergonomic design that maximized paddling efficiency while minimizing fatigue during extended voyages requiring sustained physical effort from large crews. The cargo evidence that supports prehistoric long-distance maritime trade includes not only the obvious movement of metals, amber, and other valuable materials across vast oceanic distances, but also the systematic transport of livestock, agricultural products, and manufactured goods that required specialized vessel design and careful cargo management to ensure safe delivery across challenging Atlantic passages. The archaeological distribution of exotic materials demonstrates regular completion of trading voyages that connected communities from Scotland to Portugal while maintaining economic relationships that depended upon reliable maritime transportation systems. The seasonal migration patterns that characterize many Atlantic Bronze Age communities suggest systematic coordination of maritime activities with annual cycles of resource availability, weather conditions, and cultural ceremonies that required precise timing and reliable transportation to maintain social cohesion across geographically dispersed populations. The evidence for coordinated seasonal movements between islands and mainland coastal areas indicates sophisticated planning and communication systems that enabled large groups to undertake dangerous ocean voyages while minimizing risks through careful attention to environmental conditions and vessel preparation. The technological innovations that distinguish prehistoric Atlantic seafaring include not only advances in boat construction and navigation, but also sophisticated understanding of marine resource processing, weather prediction, and emergency survival techniques that enabled mariners to cope with the inevitable challenges encountered during extended ocean voyages in vessels lacking the safety equipment and communication systems available to modern seafarers. The archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric Atlantic communities achieved remarkable levels of maritime competence through generations of accumulated experience and systematic knowledge transmission. The comparative significance of prehistoric Atlantic seafaring extends beyond its immediate practical importance to encompass its contribution to understanding human adaptability, technological innovation, and cultural cooperation under challenging environmental conditions that required both individual skill and collective coordination to achieve sustained success. The evidence for systematic ocean voyages undertaken by Bronze Age communities demonstrates remarkable human capabilities for environmental adaptation and technological development that enabled cultural achievements comparable to those of contemporary Mediterranean civilizations while operating in far more challenging oceanic conditions. The archaeological methodology that has revealed the sophistication of prehistoric Atlantic seafaring involves systematic application of marine archaeology techniques, experimental reconstruction projects, and comparative analysis of maritime technologies that enable comprehensive understanding of ancient boat-building capabilities, navigation methods, and the practical requirements for successful ocean voyages. The careful excavation of waterlogged boat remains, harbor installations, and coastal settlement sites has created detailed pictures of prehistoric maritime cultures while demonstrating the remarkable technological achievements of ancient Atlantic communities. We contemplate the extraordinary evidence for prehistoric ocean voyages that enabled Atlantic Bronze Age civilization to flourish across vast oceanic distances. We witness how sophisticated maritime technologies and accumulated navigation wisdom can overcome geographical barriers while fostering cultural exchange and technological innovation that serves human prosperity despite challenging environmental conditions. The patient work of both ancient seafarers and contemporary maritime archaeologists continues, revealing new dimensions of prehistoric Atlantic seafaring while demonstrating how systematic approaches to oceanic adaptation can create sustainable maritime cultures that maintain prosperity and cultural coherence across generations of challenging voyaging conditions and technological development. The gentle rhythm of tidal cycles and the eternal patterns of seasonal navigation carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable technological achievements of prehistoric Atlantic mariners and the dedicated archaeological work that enables contemporary understanding of how sophisticated seafaring cultures can develop sustainable approaches to oceanic living while maintaining cultural exchange networks that transcend geographical boundaries and foster international cooperation across diverse environmental conditions and historical circumstances. As the gentle dawn light touches the ancient standing stones of Stonehenge, where the eternal rhythms of celestial mechanics have guided human understanding of cosmic order for over 4 millennia, we drift tonight into the remarkable world of megalithic monuments, the sophisticated stone circles, passage tombs, and astronomical observatories that dot the Atlantic landscape from the Ring of Brodger in Orkney to the stone alignments of Carnac in Brittany, demonstrating the extraordinary mathematical knowledge and engineering capabilities of prehistoric communities who transformed their understanding of solar and lunar cycles into permanent stone calendars that served both practical agricultural timing and sacred ceremonial purposes. Let your mind float peacefully through the patient contemplation of these ancient astronomers, whose careful observation of celestial patterns across generations enabled them to predict seasonal changes, calculate lunar eclipses, and coordinate community activities according to cosmic rhythms that connected earthly human concerns with the eternal movements of sun, moon, and stars. Close your eyes and feel the profound sense of cosmic harmony that must have characterized these megalithic builders as they organized massive community efforts to quarry, transport, and precisely position enormous stone blocks according to astronomical alignments that required sophisticated mathematical understanding and generations of accumulated astronomical knowledge to achieve the remarkable precision that continues inspiring wonder and scientific investigation 4,000 years after their construction. Picture yourself among the megalithic builders working at Newgrange around 3200 BCE, where the construction of this magnificent passage tomb required not only enormous collective effort involving hundreds of workers across multiple generations, but also sophisticated understanding of astronomical cycles that enabled the builders to align the monument's narrow entrance passage with the winter solstice sunrise, creating a spectacular annual event where golden sunlight penetrates the tomb's interior chamber for exactly 17 minutes while illuminating intricate spiral carvings that may represent ancient concepts about death, rebirth, and the eternal cycles that govern both human life and cosmic order. The engineering precision required to achieve this astronomical alignment demonstrates remarkable mathematical capabilities and systematic observation of celestial patterns that enabled prehistoric communities to create permanent stone monuments that function as accurate calendrical devices while serving important social and religious functions for Atlantic Bronze Age civilization. The systematic investigation of megalithic monuments across the Atlantic region has revealed extraordinary sophistication in prehistoric astronomical knowledge, where communities from Scotland to Portugal independently developed similar approaches to stone circle construction and astronomical observation that suggest either common cultural heritage or systematic exchange of mathematical and engineering knowledge across vast oceanic distances. The careful analysis of monument alignments has confirmed that prehistoric astronomers possessed detailed understanding of solar and lunar cycles, seasonal changes, and the complex periodicities that govern eclipses and planetary movements while creating stone observatories that enabled accurate prediction of astronomical events essential for agricultural timing and ceremonial coordination. Watch as the archaeological evidence reveals the systematic planning that characterized megalithic construction projects, where communities invested enormous resources in quarrying massive stone blocks, often weighing several tons, and transporting them across considerable distances using sophisticated engineering techniques that involved wooden rollers, earth ramps, and mechanical leverage systems that enabled prehistoric builders to move and position enormous monuments with remarkable precision. The construction of sites like Stonehenge required coordinated effort from multiple communities across several centuries, with different phases of building demonstrating evolving astronomical knowledge and changing cultural priorities while maintaining essential functions as calendrical devices and ceremonial centers. The astronomical alignments that characterize megalithic monuments throughout the Atlantic region demonstrate systematic attention to solar events including summer and winter solstices, spring and autumn equinoxes, and the complex lunar cycles that govern tidal patterns essential for coastal communities dependent upon marine resources and maritime transportation. The careful measurement of monument orientations has revealed that prehistoric astronomers achieved remarkable accuracy in their calculations while creating stone circles that function as permanent calendars, enabling communities to coordinate seasonal activities including agricultural timing, maritime voyages, and ceremonial gatherings according to celestial rhythms. The engineering achievements represented by megalithic construction include not only the obvious challenges of moving and positioning enormous stone blocks but also sophisticated understanding of foundation preparation, structural stability, and architectural design that enabled these monuments to survive thousands of years of weathering while maintaining their astronomical functions and cultural significance. The analysis of construction techniques has revealed systematic approaches to site preparation, stone selection, and monument design that demonstrate remarkable technical competence and engineering knowledge among prehistoric Atlantic communities. The social organization required for megalithic construction suggests complex prehistoric societies capable of coordinating large-scale community projects requiring specialized knowledge, systematic planning, and sustained collective effort across multiple generations while maintaining cultural traditions and astronomical knowledge that enabled continued monument construction and maintenance according to established engineering and astronomical principles. The scale of megalithic projects indicates hierarchical societies with sufficient agricultural surplus and social stability to support specialized craftspeople and large construction crews, while maintaining the cultural continuity necessary for multi-generational building projects. The ceremonial functions that megalithic monuments served for Atlantic Bronze Age communities likely involved seasonal gatherings that combined astronomical observation with religious ceremony, social coordination, and cultural exchange, while reinforcing community identity and inter-regional connections through shared participation in ceremonies timed according to celestial events predicted by stone circle alignments. The archaeological evidence for ceremonial activity includes artifact deposits, cremation burials, and evidence for large gatherings that suggest these monuments served as focal points for community life and cultural transmission. The mathematical knowledge required for accurate astronomical alignments demonstrates sophisticated understanding of geometric principles, trigonometric relationships, and calendrical calculations that enabled prehistoric astronomers to create stone monuments with alignments accurate to within small fractions of degrees while coordinating multiple astronomical observations within single monument complexes. The precision achieved by megalithic builders rivals modern engineering capabilities while demonstrating remarkable mathematical competence among prehistoric communities lacking written records or formal mathematical notation systems. The cultural significance of megalithic monuments extends beyond their astronomical functions to encompass their role as territorial markers, ceremonial centers, and symbols of community identity that connected prehistoric Atlantic peoples with cosmic forces while providing focal points for social organization and cultural transmission across generations of monument use and ceremonial activity. The continued modification and use of megalithic sites across multiple millennia indicates their enduring importance for successive cultures while demonstrating remarkable cultural continuity in Atlantic coastal regions. The comparative analysis of megalithic monuments across the Atlantic region reveals both shared astronomical knowledge and distinctive regional variations that suggest complex patterns of cultural exchange and local innovation within broader traditions of monument construction and astronomical observation that characterized prehistoric European civilization. The similarities in monument types, construction techniques, and astronomical alignments across vast geographical distances indicate systematic cultural communication, while regional differences demonstrate local adaptation and innovation within shared technological traditions. The dating methodology that has established the chronology of megalithic construction involves systematic application of radiocarbon dating, archaeoastronomical calculation, and stratigraphic analysis that enables precise understanding of when different monuments were built while revealing the remarkable antiquity of astronomical knowledge among prehistoric Atlantic communities who were creating sophisticated observatories before the construction of pyramids or the development of written astronomy in other civilizations. The preservation challenges that affect megalithic monuments include both natural weathering processes and human interference that threatens these irreplaceable cultural resources, while archaeological investigation continues, revealing new dimensions of prehistoric astronomical achievement and engineering competence. The systematic conservation of megalithic sites requires careful balance between public access and monument protection, while ensuring that future generations can continue learning from these remarkable achievements of prehistoric Atlantic civilization. The contemporary relevance of megalithic monuments extends beyond their historical importance to encompass their contribution to understanding human capabilities for astronomical observation, mathematical calculation, and community organization. Under prehistoric conditions, while demonstrating sustainable approaches to monumental architecture that created enduring cultural landmarks serving both practical and spiritual needs across multiple millennia of continued use and cultural significance, as we contemplate the extraordinary achievements represented by megalithic monuments throughout the Atlantic region, we witness how systematic astronomical observation and sophisticated engineering knowledge enabled prehistoric communities to create permanent stone calendars that connected human activities with cosmic rhythms while requiring remarkable levels of social organization and cultural continuity to achieve construction projects spanning multiple generations. The patient work of both ancient megalithic builders and contemporary archaeoastronomers continues, revealing new dimensions of prehistoric Atlantic civilization, while demonstrating how systematic approaches to astronomical observation can serve both practical community needs and spiritual understanding of humanity's place within cosmic processes that govern seasonal change and celestial mechanics. The gentle rhythm of celestial cycles and the eternal patterns of astronomical observation carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable intellectual achievements of megalithic builders and the dedicated scientific work that enables contemporary understanding of how prehistoric communities developed sophisticated approaches to calendar systems while creating monumental architecture that serves both practical and ceremonial functions across the vast expanse of human astronomical heritage and cultural achievement. As the gentle North Atlantic winds sweep across the treeless landscape of Orkney, where the eternal rhythms of island living have shaped human adaptation for over 5 millennia, we drift tonight into the remarkable story of Skara Brae, the extraordinarily preserved Neolithic village that emerged from beneath protective sand dunes in 1850 to reveal humanity's most complete picture of prehistoric domestic life, where sophisticated stone architecture and ingenious interior design demonstrate the remarkable cultural achievements of Atlantic island communities who thrived in challenging subarctic conditions, while developing advanced approaches to coastal living that would influence northern European civilization for thousands of years. Let your mind float peacefully through the careful archaeological investigation of these ancient Orcadian homes, where patient excavation has revealed not only the stone-built furniture and sophisticated drainage systems that characterized prehistoric island architecture, but also the systematic approaches to resource management, social organization, and environmental adaptation that enabled small communities to prosper on remote Atlantic islands through intimate knowledge of marine resources. seasonal patterns, and the sustainable exploitation of limited terrestrial ecosystems. Close your eyes and feel the profound ingenuity that must have characterized these Neolithic islanders as they transformed the challenges of island isolation into opportunities for cultural innovation, creating self-sufficient communities that maintained sophisticated material culture while developing distinctive artistic traditions and architectural techniques that reflected both practical necessity and aesthetic sensibility in their approach to creating comfortable domestic environments under demanding climatic conditions. Picture yourself walking through the preserved stone corridors of Skara Brae around 3180 BCE, where the remarkable state of preservation has enabled archaeologists to understand exactly how Neolithic families organized their daily lives within sophisticated stone-built houses that incorporated ingenious design features including built-in furniture, storage compartments, drainage systems, and heating arrangements that demonstrate extraordinary architectural sophistication and practical engineering knowledge among prehistoric communities who lacked metal tools but possessed comprehensive understanding of stone construction techniques and environmental adaptation. The 8 houses that comprised the village were connected by covered stone passageways that enabled residents to move between buildings during Orkney's notorious winter storms while maintaining community cohesion and social interaction despite the isolation imposed by harsh weather conditions that could last for months at a time. The architectural innovations that characterize Skara Brae's construction reflect sophisticated understanding of both structural engineering and domestic comfort, where Neolithic builders employed local flagstone with remarkable skill to create weatherproof buildings with sophisticated interior layouts that included stone beds, storage boxes, and carefully designed hearths that provided efficient heating while minimizing fuel consumption in an environment where timber was scarce and peat represented the primary source of domestic energy. The systematic use of available materials demonstrates remarkable resourcefulness and engineering competence among prehistoric communities, who achieved architectural sophistication rivaling contemporary Mediterranean civilizations while operating under far more challenging environmental constraints. Watch as the careful archaeological investigation reveals the systematic approaches to resource management that enabled Orkney's Neolithic communities to maintain sustainable lifestyles through comprehensive exploitation of marine resources, careful husbandry of limited agricultural land, and sophisticated understanding of seasonal cycles that governed both terrestrial and marine food production. The analysis of kitchen middens, storage facilities, and agricultural remains has demonstrated that Skara Brae's inhabitants maintained diverse subsistence strategies that included cattle and sheep husbandry, barley cultivation, systematic fishing, and intensive collection of shellfish and seabirds that enabled communities to maintain reliable food supplies despite the uncertainties of island agriculture and the challenges of North Atlantic weather patterns. The preservation conditions that enabled Skara Brae's remarkable survival reflect the fortunate combination of protective sand burial and Orkney's stable climatic conditions, where the village was gradually covered by wind-blown sand during the late Neolithic period, and remained completely buried until storm damage in 1850 exposed the stone structures and initiated the systematic archaeological investigation that has continued for over 170 years. The anaerobic conditions created by sand burial prevented organic decay, while the absence of significant seismic activity or human disturbance enabled the stone architecture to survive intact, creating unprecedented opportunities for understanding prehistoric domestic life and material culture. The material culture recovered from Skara Brae includes not only the obvious stone architecture and furniture but also sophisticated carved stone objects, carefully crafted bone and antler tools, distinctive pottery styles, and evidence for textile production that demonstrate remarkable artistic achievement and technological competence among Neolithic Orcadian communities, who created beautiful and functional objects despite lacking metal tools and operating with limited raw material resources. The systematic analysis of artifact distributions within different houses has revealed insights into family organization, craft specialization, and social differentiation that illuminate prehistoric approaches to community organization and resource allocation. The social organization that characterized Skara Brae reflects egalitarian principles where individual houses show similar construction quality and size while maintaining distinctive interior arrangements that suggest family autonomy, within broader community cooperation and resource sharing. The absence of obvious elite burials or architectural hierarchy indicates relatively egalitarian social structures where community decisions were likely made through collective consultation rather than hierarchical authority, while the evidence for craft specialization suggests that individuals achieved status through skill and expertise rather than inherited position or accumulated wealth. The technological achievements represented by Skara Brae's construction and material culture include sophisticated understanding of stone working techniques, efficient heating and ventilation systems, waterproof construction methods, and systematic approaches to food storage and preservation that enabled island communities to maintain comfortable living conditions and reliable resource management despite challenging climatic conditions and limited access to external trade networks or technological exchange with mainland communities. The environmental context within which Skara Brae flourished included both favorable marine resources and challenging terrestrial conditions, where Orkney's coastal waters provided abundant fish, shellfish, and seabirds, while the island's limited agricultural potential required careful land management and innovative approaches to crop production and livestock husbandry. The paleo-environmental evidence suggests that Neolithic Orkney experienced somewhat warmer and more stable climatic conditions than later periods, enabling agricultural productivity that supported relatively dense populations despite the constraints of island geography. The cultural connections that link Skara Brae with broader Atlantic Neolithic traditions include similarities in pottery styles, architectural techniques, and ceremonial practices that suggest systematic cultural exchange between Orkney and other Atlantic coastal communities despite the geographical challenges of maintaining contact across dangerous oceanic distances. The presence of exotic materials and artistic motifs indicates that Orcadian communities participated in broader cultural networks while maintaining distinctive local traditions and technological innovations adapted to island conditions. The chronological framework established for Skara Bray's occupation spans approximately 6 centuries between 3200 and 2500 BCE, during which the village experienced several phases of construction, modification, and eventual abandonment that reflect both changing cultural practices and environmental conditions that may have made continued occupation less viable. The systematic dating of different construction phases has revealed gradual architectural evolution and technological innovation, while demonstrating remarkable cultural continuity across multiple generations of island occupation. The comparative significance of Skara Bray extends beyond its importance for understanding Orcadian prehistory to encompass its contribution to comprehending broader patterns of Neolithic cultural development, island adaptation strategies, and the sophisticated capabilities of prehistoric communities who achieved remarkable architectural and technological achievements despite challenging environmental conditions and limited resource bases. The village provides unique insights into prehistoric domestic life that are unavailable from other archaeological contexts where organic materials and architectural details have not survived. The conservation challenges that face Skara Bray include both natural weathering processes accelerated by exposure to Atlantic storms and human impact from tourism that threatens the fragile stone structures, while archaeological investigation continues revealing new dimensions of Neolithic achievement and cultural sophistication. The development of protective visitor facilities and controlled access systems enables public education while protecting irreplaceable cultural resources for future scientific investigation and heritage appreciation. The research methodologies that continue advancing understanding of Skara Bray include sophisticated analytical techniques for studying construction sequences, environmental reconstruction, and artifact analysis that provide increasingly detailed pictures of Neolithic life while demonstrating how systematic archaeological investigation can recover comprehensive information about prehistoric communities and their adaptive strategies. The application of digital documentation, chemical analysis, and comparative studies creates permanent records while enabling international scholarly collaboration and educational outreach. The educational significance of Skara Bray encompasses its role as a unique window into prehistoric domestic life that enables contemporary communities to understand both the achievements and challenges of Neolithic island civilization, while appreciating the ingenuity and resourcefulness that enabled ancient peoples to create comfortable and sustainable lifestyles under demanding environmental conditions. The site serves as powerful demonstration of human adaptability and cultural creativity, while providing practical insights into sustainable living and community organization as we contemplate the extraordinary preservation and sophisticated cultural achievements represented by Skara Bray and Orkney's Neolithic civilization. We witness how island isolation can foster cultural innovation, while systematic archaeological investigation reveals the remarkable capabilities of prehistoric communities. who created sustainable and comfortable lifestyles through ingenious environmental adaptation and sophisticated architectural achievement. The patient work of both ancient Orcadian builders and contemporary archaeologists continues illuminating the sophisticated cultural traditions that enabled Atlantic island communities to thrive, while demonstrating how careful archaeological investigation can recover detailed information about prehistoric domestic life and technological achievement. The gentle rhythm of Atlantic tides and the eternal patterns of island adaptation carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable ingenuity of Neolithic Orcadian communities and the dedicated archaeological work that enables contemporary understanding of how island civilizations developed distinctive approaches to environmental adaptation while creating sophisticated material culture and architectural achievement that serves both practical and aesthetic needs across the challenging conditions of Atlantic island living. As the gentle evening mist rises from the ancient stone alignments of Carnac, where over 3,000 standing stones march in systematic rows across the Breton landscape like silent sentinels marking humanity's most ambitious prehistoric monument complex, we drift tonight into the remarkable story of Brittany's central role as the cultural heartland of Atlantic civilization. The peninsular crossroads where maritime trade routes converged and diverged while connecting the British Isles with Iberian communities through 6 centuries of systematic cultural exchange, technological innovation, and monumental architecture that demonstrates the sophisticated organizational capabilities of Bronze Age communities who recognized Brittany's strategic geographic position and transformed it into the administrative and ceremonial center of their vast oceanic network. Let your mind float peacefully through the patient rhythms of Breton prehistory, where skilled megalithic builders created the world's largest concentration of standing stones, while master mariners developed the sophisticated harbor facilities and fishing installations that enabled systematic exploitation of both marine resources and long-distance trade opportunities that made Brittany the indispensable link connecting Atlantic communities from Scotland to Portugal. Close your eyes and feel the profound cultural significance that must have characterized ancient Brittany, as both local communities and visiting traders recognized this Atlantic peninsula as the sacred center where cosmic forces converged, where technological innovation spread, and where the systematic coordination of interregional relationships enabled Atlantic Bronze Age civilization to achieve its remarkable cultural unity and technological sophistication across vast oceanic distances. Picture yourself walking among the megalithic alignments of Menec around 3300 BCE, where over 1,100 standing stones arranged in 11 precisely parallel rows demonstrate the extraordinary organizational capabilities and mathematical knowledge of Neolithic Breton communities who coordinated massive collective efforts to quarry, transport, and systematically position these enormous monuments according to astronomical alignments and geometric principles that required generations of accumulated knowledge and sustained community cooperation to achieve such remarkable precision and monumental scale. The systematic investigation of these stone alignments has revealed sophisticated understanding of lunar cycles, seasonal changes, and celestial mechanics that enabled prehistoric Breton astronomers to create permanent calendrical devices while providing focal points for ceremonial gatherings that reinforced cultural identity and facilitated the coordination of economic and social activities across the broader Atlantic network. The harbour engineering achievements that characterize prehistoric Breton coastal sites represent some of humanity's earliest examples of systematic marine infrastructure, where ancient communities constructed sophisticated fish weirs, artificial harbours, and boat launching facilities that demonstrate remarkable understanding of tidal mechanics, coastal geology, and maritime logistics, while providing the essential infrastructure that enabled Brittany to serve as the primary hub for Atlantic Bronze Age maritime commerce and cultural exchange. The careful archaeological investigation of these harbour installations has revealed systematic approaches to coastal modification that enabled communities to maintain fleets of seagoing vessels while providing protected anchorages for visiting traders and seasonal fishing operations. Watch as the archaeological evidence reveals Brittany's function as the technological centre of Atlantic Bronze Age metallurgy, where sophisticated bronze working facilities produced the distinctive socket axes, carp-tongue swords, and ceremonial objects that appear in hoards throughout the Atlantic network, while demonstrating the standardized production methods and quality control systems that enabled Breton metalworkers to maintain technological leadership and artistic excellence across multiple centuries of intensive production. The chemical analysis of bronze compositions has confirmed that Breton workshops employed consistent alloy recipes and casting techniques, while serving as training centers where apprentice metalworkers from distant communities learned advanced techniques before returning to establish satellite workshops in their home regions. The cultural synthesis that Brittany achieved during the Atlantic Bronze Age reflects its unique geographic position as the peninsular meeting point where Celtic, Iberian, and broader European cultural traditions converged and blended to create distinctive artistic styles, architectural techniques, and social practices that combined elements from different regional traditions while maintaining coherent cultural identity and systematic approaches to community organization. The material culture recovered from Breton Bronze Age sites demonstrates remarkable diversity and sophistication, while showing clear connections to contemporary developments in Britain, Ireland, and Atlantic Spain that confirm Brittany's central role in facilitating cultural exchange and technological diffusion. The ceremonial landscape that developed across prehistoric Brittany encompasses not only the famous megalithic alignments but also sophisticated systems of passage tombs, stone circles, and ritual enclosures that created comprehensive sacred geography serving both local communities and visiting pilgrims from across the Atlantic network, who recognized Breton monuments as regional centers of spiritual authority and astronomical knowledge. The careful analysis of ceremonial site distributions has revealed systematic planning that connected different monument complexes through sightlines, processional pathways, and coordinated astronomical alignments that enabled large-scale ceremonial gatherings while demonstrating sophisticated understanding of landscape architecture and sacred geometry. The economic foundations that enabled Brittany to maintain its central position within Atlantic Bronze Age networks included not only its strategic geographic location but also its systematic exploitation of diverse resource bases including marine fisheries, agricultural production, mineral deposits, and specialized craft production that created economic surpluses while providing valuable trade commodities that were in demand throughout the Atlantic region. The evidence for economic specialization includes workshop areas dedicated to different crafts, storage facilities for trade goods, and systematic approaches to resource management that enabled communities to maintain prosperity while supporting the administrative and ceremonial activities necessary for coordinating interregional relationships. The linguistic implications of Brittany's central role in Atlantic networks remain largely speculative due to the absence of written records, but the remarkable cultural similarities and systematic technological exchange suggest that Breton communities may have served as linguistic intermediaries who facilitated communication between different Atlantic regional groups while maintaining multilingual capabilities that enabled effective coordination of complex interregional relationships and commercial arrangements. The later Celtic linguistic evidence provides tantalizing hints about possible Bronze Age linguistic relationships that may have been facilitated by Breton cultural mediation. The maritime technologies that Brittany contributed to Atlantic Bronze Age civilization include sophisticated boat-building techniques, navigation methods, and harbour engineering systems that enabled communities throughout the Atlantic network to improve their own maritime capabilities while benefiting from Breton innovations in vessel design, construction materials, and seamanship training that enhanced the safety and efficiency of long-distance ocean voyages. The archaeological evidence for Breton maritime expertise includes specialized boat-building tools, harbor installations, and evidence for systematic fishing industries that demonstrate comprehensive mastery of oceanic adaptation and coastal engineering. The social organization that characterized Bronze Age Brittany likely involved hierarchical societies with specialized classes of administrators, craft specialists, and religious authorities who coordinated the complex activities necessary for maintaining Brittany's central position within Atlantic networks while managing local resource production, ceremonial activities, and interregional diplomatic relationships that required sophisticated understanding of different cultural traditions and political arrangements. The archaeological evidence suggests complex societies that combined local autonomy with regional coordination while maintaining the cultural flexibility necessary for effective intercultural mediation. The astronomical knowledge that Breton communities developed and transmitted throughout the Atlantic network includes sophisticated understanding of solar and lunar cycles, seasonal timing, and celestial navigation principles that enabled systematic coordination of agricultural activities, ceremonial gatherings, and maritime voyages across the vast distances that characterized Atlantic Bronze Age cultural relationships. The astronomical alignments incorporated into Breton megalithic monuments demonstrate mathematical capabilities and observational precision that rivals contemporary achievements in other civilizations while serving practical functions for calendar calculation and navigation training. The artistic achievements that distinguish Breton Bronze Age culture include sophisticated stone carving, ceramic decoration, metalwork ornamentation, and textile production that demonstrate remarkable aesthetic sensitivity and technical skill while incorporating motifs and stylistic elements derived from different Atlantic regional traditions that were synthesized into distinctive Breton artistic styles. The systematic analysis of artistic development has revealed both local innovations and systematic adoption of external influences that reflect Brittany's role as cultural crossroads and artistic innovation center. The defensive capabilities that enabled Brittany to maintain its prosperity and cultural leadership include strategically located fortifications, coordinated defense systems, and military technologies that provided protection for communities, trade routes, and ceremonial centers while demonstrating sophisticated understanding of military engineering and strategic planning that enabled successful resistance to hostile neighbors and protection of valuable cultural resources. The evidence for defensive planning indicates that Breton communities possess considerable expertise in military organization while maintaining the peaceful relationships necessary for successful commercial and cultural exchange. The environmental management strategies that sustained Breton prosperity across multiple centuries include sophisticated approaches to coastal resource exploitation, agricultural intensification, and woodland management that enabled communities to maintain dense populations while supporting specialized craft production and ceremonial activities without depleting essential resource bases or compromising long-term ecological sustainability. The paleo-environmental evidence suggests that Breton communities achieved balanced relationships with their coastal and terrestrial environments that served as models for sustainable development throughout the Atlantic network. The comparative significance of Brittany's role in Atlantic Bronze Age civilization extends beyond its immediate historical importance to encompass its contribution to understanding how geographic position can be transformed into cultural advantage through systematic investment in infrastructure, technological development, and inter-regional relationship management that creates beneficial outcomes for both local communities and broader cultural networks. The Breton example demonstrates how strategic location can be developed into cultural leadership through sustained effort and sophisticated coordination of diverse economic, social, and ceremonial activities. As we contemplate the extraordinary role that Brittany played as the cultural and commercial center of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization, we witness how geographic advantage combined with systematic cultural investment can create regional centers of innovation and coordination that serve broader networks while maintaining local prosperity and cultural distinctiveness. The patient work of both ancient Breton communities and contemporary archaeologists continues, revealing new dimensions of this remarkable prehistoric achievement, while demonstrating how systematic approaches to interregional cooperation can create sustainable cultural networks that benefit all participants while fostering technological innovation and cultural development. The gentle rhythm of Breton tides and the eternal patterns of Atlantic coordination carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable cultural achievements of prehistoric Brittany and the dedicated archaeological work that enables contemporary understanding of how strategic geographic position can be developed into cultural leadership through systematic investment in infrastructure, technology, and interregional relationship management across the vast expanse of Atlantic heritage and Bronze Age achievement. As the gentle Atlantic sunset paints the ancient coastal fortifications of Galicia in golden hues, where the eternal rhythms of Iberian maritime civilization have carved their enduring legacy into cliff-top settlements and sophisticated harbor installations, we drift tonight into the remarkable story of Spain's prehistoric coastal communities. The sophisticated Bronze Age societies that flourished along the Atlantic shores from Portugal to the Bay of Biscay, while serving as the southern anchor of the vast oceanic network that connected Mediterranean influences with Atlantic innovations through 6 centuries of systematic cultural exchange and technological development. Let your mind float peacefully through the patient rhythms of Iberian coastal adaptation, where skilled metalworkers created distinctive bronze implements and ornate ceremonial objects, while master mariners developed the sophisticated boat-building techniques and navigation knowledge that enabled regular contact with distant communities in Brittany, Cornwall, and Ireland across hundreds of miles of challenging Atlantic waters. Close your eyes and feel the profound cultural synthesis that must have characterized these Iberian coastal peoples as they integrated Mediterranean architectural traditions with Atlantic maritime technologies while creating distinctive regional cultures that combine the best elements of both worlds in their approaches to coastal fortification, bronze working, and systematic exploitation of marine resources that sustained prosperous communities for over 6 centuries. Picture yourself walking through the impressive Castro settlements of northwestern Spain around 1000 BCE, where Bronze Age communities constructed sophisticated cliff-top fortifications using massive stone walls and defensive earthworks that demonstrate remarkable understanding of military engineering while providing protected environments for specialized craft production, systematic food storage, and the coordination of maritime activities that connected Iberian communities with the broader Atlantic Bronze Age network. These fortified coastal settlements, known as castros, represent one of the most distinctive architectural achievements of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization. Combining Mediterranean influences in their circular stone construction with uniquely Atlantic adaptations for coastal defense and maritime access that enabled communities to maintain both security and economic prosperity through systematic exploitation of marine resources and long-distance trade relationships. The metallurgical achievements that distinguish Iberian Bronze Age culture reflect sophisticated understanding of both local ore sources and international technological standards, where communities from Galicia to Portugal developed specialized bronze-working facilities that produced the distinctive socket axes, carp-tongue swords, and elaborate ceremonial objects that appear in hordes throughout the Atlantic network, while demonstrating remarkable consistency in alloy composition and casting techniques that suggest systematic quality control and technological exchange with other Atlantic metalworking centers. The chemical analysis of Iberian bronze objects has revealed sophisticated understanding of tin and copper ratios that enabled the production of high-quality tools and weapons, while the discovery of specialized casting molds and metalworking tools demonstrates comprehensive mastery of bronze production techniques that rivaled contemporary Mediterranean achievements. Watch as the archaeological evidence reveals the systematic approaches to coastal resource management that enabled Iberian communities to support dense populations through intensive exploitation of marine fisheries, systematic shellfish harvesting, and sophisticated understanding of seasonal patterns that governed both terrestrial agriculture and maritime resource availability. The analysis of coastal middens from Atlantic Spain has revealed evidence for systematic fishing operations that included deep-sea species requiring advanced boat technologies and navigation skills, while demonstrating sustainable harvesting practices that maintained marine resource productivity across multiple centuries of intensive exploitation. The preservation of ancient fish weirs and harbor installations along the Spanish Atlantic coast demonstrates remarkable engineering capabilities and systematic approaches to coastal modification that enabled communities to maximize marine resource productivity while providing protected anchorages for trading vessels and fishing fleets. The burial practices that characterize Iberian Atlantic Bronze Age communities reflect complex social organization and sophisticated approaches to commemorating the dead through systematic cremation rituals and elaborate grave goods that demonstrate both local cultural traditions and participation in broader Atlantic ceremonial practices. The archaeological investigation of Iberian Bronze Age cemeteries has revealed systematic cremation practices that began around 1500 BCE, with cremated remains typically deposited in organic containers or mixed with pyre debris according to distinctive Atlantic traditions that differed significantly from contemporary Mediterranean burial practices, while maintaining remarkable consistency across the entire Atlantic coastal region from Portugal to Scotland. The presence of valuable bronze objects, imported amber, and exotic materials in Iberian burials demonstrates participation in long-distance trade networks, while indicating hierarchical social organization that enabled accumulation of wealth and status symbols through successful maritime commerce and craft specialization. The harbour engineering achievements that enabled Iberian participation in Atlantic Bronze Age maritime networks include sophisticated understanding of coastal geology, tidal mechanics, and the practical requirements for maintaining fleets of seagoing vessels capable of undertaking extended ocean voyages to distant trading partners in Brittany, Cornwall, and Ireland. The systematic investigation of prehistoric harbour sites along the Spanish Atlantic coast has revealed evidence for deliberate coastal modification, including breakwaters, boat launching facilities, and protected anchorages that demonstrate remarkable engineering capabilities while providing essential infrastructure for maintaining regular maritime contact with other Atlantic communities despite the challenging sailing conditions that characterize these oceanic waters. The cultural exchange. Evidence that demonstrates Iberian integration within Atlantic Bronze Age networks includes the systematic distribution of distinctive artifact types across vast geographical ranges, where Spanish coastal communities both received and contributed technological innovations, artistic styles, and ceremonial practices that created remarkable cultural uniformity across the entire Atlantic facade of Europe, while maintaining distinctive regional characteristics that reflected local environmental conditions and cultural preferences. The presence of British and Irish metalwork in Spanish hoards, combined with the appearance of distinctively Iberian bronze types in northern European contexts, confirms regular and systematic maritime contact that enabled comprehensive cultural exchange and technological diffusion across the challenging distances that separated different Atlantic coastal regions. The agricultural innovations that supported Iberian Atlantic Bronze Age prosperity include sophisticated understanding of coastal environmental conditions that enabled communities to develop intensive agricultural systems adapted to maritime climates while maintaining the economic surpluses necessary for supporting specialized craftspeople, long-distance traders, and the construction of elaborate fortifications and ceremonial monuments that characterized advanced Bronze Age societies. The paleo-environmental evidence suggests that Iberian communities achieved sustainable relationships with their coastal environments through systematic resource management and agricultural techniques that enabled long-term prosperity while supporting the population densities necessary for complex social organization and technological achievement. The artistic achievements that distinguish Iberian Atlantic Bronze Age culture include sophisticated bronze working, stone carving, and ceramic production that demonstrate remarkable aesthetic sensitivity and technical skill while incorporating both Mediterranean and Atlantic design elements in distinctive regional styles that reflect the cultural synthesis achieved by communities positioned at the intersection of different European cultural traditions. The systematic analysis of Iberian Bronze Age art has revealed both local innovations and systematic adoption of external influences that reflect active participation in broader Atlantic cultural networks while maintaining distinctive regional identity and artistic expression. As the gentle morning light filters through the windows of climate-controlled archaeological laboratories where patient researchers continue their systematic analysis of prehistoric artifacts recovered from Atlantic coastal sites, where the eternal rhythms of scientific methodology transform ancient fragments of pottery, bronze, and bone into comprehensive stories of human adaptation and cultural achievement. We drift tonight into the fascinating world of maritime archaeology, the sophisticated scientific techniques and methodological innovations that have enabled contemporary scholars to reconstruct the remarkable story of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization through careful excavation of ancient settlements, systematic analysis of artifact distributions, and the patient application of dating technologies that connect fragmented archaeological evidence with coherent narratives of prehistoric cultural development. Let your mind float peacefully through the quiet precision of archaeological fieldwork, where dedicated specialists employ stratigraphic excavation, radiocarbon dating, and chemical analysis to recover information about ancient communities whose sophisticated maritime technologies and cultural achievements might otherwise remain forever hidden beneath centuries of coastal sediment and cultural amnesia. Close your eyes and feel the profound satisfaction that characterizes archaeological discovery, where months of careful excavation and years of systematic analysis gradually reveal the remarkable sophistication of prehistoric Atlantic peoples who left no written records, but whose material culture continues teaching us about human adaptability, technological innovation, and the cultural processes that enabled ancient communities to create sustainable prosperity through systematic approaches to coastal living and oceanic exploration. Picture yourself beside Gordon Childe at the Skara Brae excavation during the 1920s, where pioneering archaeological methodology first demonstrated how systematic stratigraphic analysis could recover detailed information about prehistoric domestic life through careful attention to the spatial relationships between artifacts, architectural features, and the accumulated deposits that preserve evidence of ancient human activities across multiple generations of occupation. Childe's innovative approach to site documentation established methodological precedents that continue guiding archaeological investigation, while demonstrating how patient fieldwork and systematic recording techniques can transform archaeological sites into comprehensive databases of information about prehistoric technology, social organization, and environmental adaptation that enable scholarly reconstruction of ancient lifeways and cultural achievements. The revolutionary impact of radiocarbon dating on Atlantic prehistoric archaeology began with Willard Libby's development of carbon-14 analysis during the 1940s, which enabled archaeologists to establish precise chronological frameworks for understanding when different Atlantic Bronze Age developments occurred, while replacing speculative chronologies based on stylistic comparison with scientific dating methods that created reliable temporal sequences for prehistoric cultural development. The systematic application of radiocarbon dating to Atlantic archaeological sites has confirmed the remarkable antiquity of megalithic monuments, the synchronous development of bronze working technologies across vast geographical distances, and the sustained cultural continuity that characterized Atlantic Bronze Age civilization across multiple centuries of technological and social development. Watch as the sophisticated techniques of maritime archaeology unfold through the systematic investigation of prehistoric harbors, fish weirs, and boat remains that demonstrate the remarkable maritime capabilities of Atlantic Bronze Age communities while requiring specialized methodological approaches adapted to underwater excavation, coastal site investigation, and the preservation challenges that characterize archaeological materials recovered from marine environments. The development of underwater excavation techniques, remote sensing technologies, and specialized conservation methods has enabled archaeologists to recover comprehensive information about prehistoric seafaring capabilities, while documenting the sophisticated harbor engineering and coastal modification projects that supported Atlantic Bronze Age maritime commerce and cultural exchange. The stratigraphic methodology that enables archaeologists to understand the chronological sequence of occupation at prehistoric Atlantic sites involves systematic excavation by thin horizontal layers that preserve the spatial relationships between artifacts while documenting the gradual accumulation of cultural deposits that provide evidence for changing technologies, social practices, and environmental conditions across multiple generations of site use. The careful recording of artifact locations, architectural features, and depositional contexts creates comprehensive databases that enable detailed reconstruction of ancient lifeways while providing essential information for understanding how prehistoric communities adapted to changing environmental conditions and cultural circumstances. The analytical techniques that transform recovered archaeological materials into information about prehistoric Atlantic civilization include chemical analysis of metal compositions that reveals trade networks and technological exchange, paleo-environmental analysis of pollen and other organic remains that reconstructs ancient landscapes and climate conditions, and systematic comparison of artifact styles and manufacturing techniques that illuminates cultural relationships and technological diffusion across the Atlantic network. The integration of multiple analytical approaches creates comprehensive pictures of prehistoric cultural systems while demonstrating the sophisticated capabilities of ancient Atlantic communities. The preservation factors that determine what archaeological evidence survives from prehistoric Atlantic sites include both environmental conditions that affect organic material survival and human activities that either protect or threaten archaeological deposits through subsequent occupation. Agricultural activities, or construction projects that can either preserve or destroy irreplaceable cultural resources. The systematic investigation of preservation conditions has revealed that waterlogged sites, protective sand burial, and stable soil chemistry can preserve organic materials for millennia while enabling recovery of comprehensive artifact assemblages that illuminate prehistoric technology and material culture. The remote sensing technologies that enhance contemporary Atlantic prehistoric archaeology include ground-penetrating radar that locates buried structures without excavation, aerial photography and satellite imagery that reveals landscape features and site distributions, and magnetometry that detects subsurface features through variations in magnetic field intensity that indicate human modification of natural environments. These non-invasive survey techniques enable archaeologists to understand site characteristics and plan systematic excavation strategies, while minimizing disturbance to precious archaeological deposits that represent irreplaceable sources of information about prehistoric cultural achievement. The comparative methodology that enables archaeologists to understand Atlantic Bronze Age cultural relationships involves systematic analysis of artifact styles, technological traditions, and architectural features across multiple sites while identifying patterns of similarity and difference that illuminate cultural exchange networks, technological diffusion, and the development of shared cultural practices across vast geographical distances. The careful comparison of material culture assemblages from different Atlantic coastal regions has confirmed the existence of systematic cultural networks while revealing both shared traditions and distinctive regional innovations that characterized this remarkable prehistoric civilization. The conservation techniques that protect recovered archaeological materials from Atlantic prehistoric sites require specialized understanding of material degradation processes and appropriate preservation. Methods that prevent further deterioration while enabling continued scholarly analysis and public education about prehistoric cultural achievements. The development of environmental controls, chemical stabilization procedures, and digital documentation methods ensures that archaeological materials remain available for future research while providing permanent records that preserve essential information about prehistoric Atlantic civilization for continuing investigation and educational use. The dating methodologies that establish chronological frameworks for Atlantic prehistoric development include not only radiocarbon analysis but also thermoluminescence dating of pottery and burned materials, dendrochronology of preserved wooden structures, and stratigraphic analysis that determines relative sequences of cultural development while enabling precise correlation between different archaeological sites and cultural phases. The integration of multiple dating techniques creates reliable chronological frameworks while enabling archaeologists to understand the temporal relationships between different aspects of prehistoric Atlantic cultural development. The interdisciplinary approaches that characterize contemporary Atlantic prehistoric archaeology involve collaboration between archaeologists, paleoenvironmentalists, chemists, geologists, and other specialists who contribute diverse expertise to the complex tasks of site investigation, artifact analysis, and cultural interpretation that require knowledge spanning multiple academic disciplines while creating comprehensive understanding of prehistoric cultural systems and their environmental contexts. The systematic coordination of diverse research approaches enables recovery of information that would be impossible through single-discipline investigation while demonstrating the remarkable complexity of prehistoric Atlantic cultural achievement. The public engagement strategies that connect archaeological research with broader community education include museum exhibitions, educational publications, site interpretation programs, and digital resources that make scholarly discoveries accessible to general audiences while promoting appreciation for prehistoric cultural achievements and the scientific methods that enable their recovery and interpretation. The systematic development of public education programs ensures that archaeological research serves both academic understanding and community heritage appreciation while fostering support for continued investigation and cultural resource protection. The ethical considerations that guide contemporary Atlantic prehistoric archaeology include respect for indigenous cultural traditions, appropriate consultation with descendant communities, and systematic attention to the responsibilities that Archaeologists bear toward both cultural resources and the communities whose heritage they investigate, while ensuring that archaeological research serves both scientific understanding and cultural preservation rather than merely satisfying academic curiosity or advancing professional careers without appropriate consideration for community interests and cultural sensitivity. The technological innovations that continue advancing Atlantic prehistoric archaeology include digital documentation systems, three-dimensional modeling techniques, chemical analysis methods, and database technologies that enable comprehensive recording of archaeological information while creating permanent archives that preserve essential data for future research and educational use despite the inevitable destruction that characterizes archaeological excavation and the gradual deterioration that affects all organic archaeological materials over extended periods of time. The future directions that will guide continuing investigation of Atlantic prehistoric civilization include systematic survey of underwater archaeological sites, application of new analytical techniques to existing museum collections, international coordination of research efforts across multiple Atlantic coastal nations, and development of improved methods for investigating and interpreting prehistoric cultural systems, while maintaining appropriate standards for cultural resource protection and community consultation that ensure archaeological research continues serving both scientific understanding and cultural preservation across the evolving landscape of contemporary archaeological practice and heritage management. As we contemplate the remarkable methodological achievements that have enabled contemporary understanding of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization through systematic archaeological investigation, we witness how patient scientific methodology and international scholarly cooperation can recover comprehensive information about prehistoric cultural achievement while demonstrating the sophisticated capabilities of ancient communities who created sustainable maritime cultures across challenging oceanic environments. The gentle rhythm of archaeological discovery and the eternal commitment to scientific precision carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable cultural achievements of prehistoric Atlantic peoples and the dedicated scientific work that transforms fragmentary archaeological evidence into coherent narratives of human adaptation, technological innovation, and cultural development that illuminate humanity's diverse heritage while providing valuable as the gentle evening light illuminates the museum display cases where Bronze Age artifacts from across the Atlantic network rest side by side, revealing the remarkable similarities in design and craftsmanship that connect ancient communities separated by hundreds of miles of dangerous ocean, we drift tonight into the fascinating story of cultural exchange, the systematic sharing of technologies, artistic styles, and intellectual innovations that enabled Atlantic Bronze Age civilization to maintain remarkable cultural unity across vast geographical distances through 6 centuries of peaceful cooperation and technological development. Let your mind float peacefully through the patient rhythms of prehistoric trade networks, where skilled mariners carried not only precious metals and exotic materials, but also the essential knowledge, artistic techniques, and cultural practices that enabled distant communities to benefit from innovations developed by their Atlantic neighbors while contributing their own discoveries to the collective wisdom that characterized this remarkable oceanic civilization. Close your eyes and feel the profound sense of intellectual curiosity that must have motivated ancient craftsmen as they examined foreign artifacts brought by visiting traders. Carefully studying unfamiliar techniques and design elements that they would adapt to local conditions while sharing their own innovations with maritime visitors who would carry new ideas back to distant coastal communities eager to benefit from the accumulated technological and artistic achievements of the entire Atlantic network. Picture yourself in a Bronze Age workshop on the Cornish coast around 1000 BCE, where master metalworkers carefully examine a beautifully crafted socket axe brought by Irish traders. Studying its distinctive casting technique and alloy composition while preparing to share their own innovations in sword design with these visiting craftsmen who will carry Cornish technological knowledge back to their home workshops in County Cork. The systematic analysis of Bronze Age metal compositions has revealed that Atlantic communities maintained remarkably consistent technological standards across their entire network, suggesting not merely occasional contact but sustained exchange of technical knowledge that enabled metalworkers from Scotland to Portugal to achieve similar levels of quality and sophistication in their bronze production, while adapting shared techniques to local resource availability and cultural preferences. The pottery traditions that demonstrate systematic cultural exchange across the Atlantic Bronze Age network include distinctive decorative motifs, manufacturing techniques, and vessel forms that appear simultaneously across vast geographical ranges while showing clear evidence of technological diffusion and artistic influence that connected communities through shared ceramic traditions adapted to local clay sources and cultural practices. The careful analysis of pottery sherds from sites spanning the entire Atlantic coast has revealed systematic patterns of stylistic influence and technical innovation that demonstrate regular cultural contact while illustrating how ancient communities balanced respect for traditional forms with openness to beneficial innovations derived from contact with distant neighbors. Watch as the evidence for systematic knowledge exchange unfolds through the distribution of identical bronzeworking tools, casting molds, and technical implements across the Atlantic network, where communities shared not only finished products but also the specialized equipment and technical knowledge necessary for local production of sophisticated metalwork according to standardized quality control methods and design principles that maintained technological uniformity across diverse regional workshops. The presence of identical tool types in Bronze Age workshops from Ireland to Portugal confirms systematic sharing of technical knowledge, while demonstrating the remarkable coordination that enabled Atlantic communities to maintain technological leadership and artistic excellence across multiple centuries of intensive production and cultural development. The artistic motifs that appear consistently across Atlantic Bronze Age material culture include distinctive geometric patterns, symbolic designs, and decorative techniques that demonstrate shared aesthetic principles and cultural values while revealing how ancient communities maintained cultural identity through systematic preservation and transmission of traditional design elements that connected local artistic production with broader Atlantic cultural networks. The systematic analysis of decorative patterns on bronze objects, pottery vessels, and stone monuments has revealed complex systems of symbolic communication that enabled cultural continuity while providing frameworks for expressing both local identity and participation in broader Atlantic civilization. The technological innovations that spread rapidly across the Atlantic network include advances in metallurgy, boat construction, harbor engineering, and agricultural techniques that demonstrate systematic sharing of practical knowledge and problem-solving strategies that enabled all participating communities to benefit from innovations developed by their neighbors while contributing their own discoveries to the collective technological advancement that characterized this remarkable prehistoric civilization. The archaeological evidence for technological diffusion includes not only finished products but also the specialized tools, manufacturing techniques, and engineering solutions that enabled local adaptation and improvement of innovations originally developed in distant workshops and communities. The ritual practices that demonstrate cultural exchange across the Atlantic Bronze Age network include shared approaches to metalwork deposition, burial ceremonies, and astronomical observation that created common frameworks for spiritual expression and community organization while enabling systematic coordination of seasonal activities, ceremonial gatherings, and inter-regional relationships that reinforced cultural solidarity despite geographical separation. The remarkable similarities in ritual deposit patterns from Scotland to Spain indicate systematic sharing of religious concepts and ceremonial practices that connected local communities with broader spiritual traditions and cultural identity. The material culture assemblages that characterize Atlantic Bronze Age sites demonstrate systematic exchange of both practical objects and luxury goods that connected local communities with distant sources of exotic materials while enabling participation in broader networks of cultural prestige and technological innovation that enhanced local prosperity and cultural sophistication through access to materials, techniques, and artistic styles that would otherwise be unavailable to geographically isolated coastal communities. The communication networks that enabled systematic cultural exchange across the Atlantic Bronze Age world likely involved specialized classes of traders, craftsmen, and cultural ambassadors who served not only as transporters of goods but also as carriers of technological knowledge, artistic techniques, and cultural information that enabled effective coordination of interregional relationships while maintaining the personal connections and cultural understanding necessary for successful long-distance exchange in societies lacking formal diplomatic institutions or standardized commercial practices. The linguistic implications of systematic cultural exchange across the Atlantic network remain largely speculative due to the absence of written records, but the remarkable consistency of symbolic systems, decorative motifs, and cultural practices suggests either common linguistic heritage or sophisticated multilingual communication capabilities that enabled effective transmission of complex technical knowledge and cultural concepts across potential linguistic boundaries, while maintaining the cultural coordination necessary for sustained technological and artistic exchange. The economic systems that supported Atlantic Bronze Age cultural exchange included sophisticated understanding of resource valuation, quality control, and trade relationship management that enabled communities to maintain beneficial commercial relationships while ensuring that local production capabilities and cultural traditions were enhanced rather than undermined by participation in broader exchange networks. The evidence for systematic resource management and production planning demonstrates remarkable economic sophistication among prehistoric communities who achieved sustainable prosperity through careful balance between local self-sufficiency and beneficial participation in interregional trade relationships. The social mechanisms that facilitated cultural exchange across the Atlantic network likely involved kinship relationships, marriage alliances, and ceremonial partnerships that created personal connections between distant communities while providing frameworks for trust and cooperation that enabled sustained commercial and cultural relationships despite the geographical challenges and potential conflicts that could disrupt interregional exchange. The archaeological evidence for similar social organization and cultural practices across the Atlantic network suggests systematic maintenance of social institutions that supported peaceful cooperation and beneficial exchange. The preservation conditions that have enabled archaeological recovery of evidence for Atlantic Bronze Age cultural exchange include both favorable environmental factors that protected organic materials and human depositional practices that systematically preserved valuable objects in contexts that enable modern recovery and analysis while providing comprehensive information about ancient exchange relationships and cultural practices that demonstrate the sophisticated coordination and cultural achievement that characterized this remarkable prehistoric civilization. The comparative significance of Atlantic Bronze Age cultural exchange extends beyond its immediate historical importance to encompass its contribution to understanding how prehistoric communities could achieve remarkable levels of interregional cooperation and technological coordination despite the absence of formal political institutions or standardized communication systems, while maintaining local cultural autonomy and distinctive regional characteristics that enriched rather than diminished overall network diversity and cultural sophistication. The methodological challenges that face contemporary archaeological investigation of prehistoric cultural exchange include the difficulties of distinguishing between local innovation and external influence, the problems of dating exchange relationships with sufficient precision to understand cultural processes, and the need to balance statistical analysis of artifact distributions with cultural interpretation that recognizes the human agency and decision-making processes that created and maintained these remarkable networks of prehistoric cooperation and technological advancement. The educational implications of studying Atlantic Bronze Age cultural exchange include its demonstration of humanity's ancient capabilities for peaceful international cooperation, technological sharing, and cultural coordination that created beneficial outcomes for all participating communities while maintaining respect for local traditions and regional diversity, that enriched rather than homogenized overall cultural development and artistic achievement across diverse environmental conditions and geographical circumstances as we contemplate the extraordinary evidence for systematic cultural exchange that enabled Atlantic Bronze Age civilization to achieve remarkable cultural unity and technological sophistication across vast oceanic distances. We witness how ancient communities could overcome geographical barriers through sustained commitment to peaceful cooperation and beneficial sharing of innovations, while maintaining local autonomy and cultural distinctiveness. The patient work of both ancient Atlantic peoples and contemporary archaeologists continues, revealing new dimensions of this remarkable prehistoric achievement, while demonstrating how systematic approaches to cultural exchange can create sustainable networks of cooperation that serve both local prosperity and broader cultural development across challenging environmental conditions and geographical constraints. The gentle rhythm of cultural exchange and the eternal patterns of technological innovation carry continuing invitations to appreciate both the remarkable achievements of Atlantic Bronze Age communities in creating sustainable networks of peaceful cooperation and the dedicated archaeological work that enables contemporary understanding of how ancient peoples achieved levels of international coordination and cultural exchange that rival modern achievements while maintaining respect for cultural diversity and local autonomy across the vast expanse of prehistoric heritage and technological development. As the gentle evening stars begin their eternal watch over the quiet research centers where contemporary scholars continue studying the profound legacy of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization, where ancient achievements in maritime technology and cultural cooperation whisper across 3 millennia about timeless questions that transcend any single historical period or archaeological discovery. We arrive tonight at the serene conclusion of our journey through this remarkable oceanic civilization, a prehistoric network of coastal communities whose sophisticated approaches to international cooperation, sustainable living, and technological innovation continue offering insights to modern societies seeking wisdom about navigating global challenges while maintaining cultural diversity and environmental responsibility. Let your mind drift peacefully through the timeless concerns that connect these ancient Atlantic voices to our contemporary search for meaning, where each carefully preserved stone circle and systematically excavated harbor installation speaks across the centuries about humanity's enduring capacity for creating beneficial relationships that transcend geographical boundaries while fostering technological advancement and cultural achievement through patient cooperation and mutual respect. Close your eyes and feel the profound presence of those Bronze Age communities whose patient dedication to peaceful exchange and environmental adaptation nearly 3,000 years ago continues teaching us about sustainable prosperity, international collaboration, and the mysterious relationship between human ingenuity and natural harmony that challenges every generation to discover deeper truths about our collective potential for creating civilizations that serve both individual fulfillment and species survival across the vast expanse of cultural development and historical transformation. Picture yourself in quiet contemplation at the intersection of ancient wisdom and contemporary questioning, where research facilities house both precious Bronze Age artifacts and sophisticated analytical equipment. Feeling the gentle presence of concerns that transcend any single historical period or technological framework. What does it mean to create sustainable relationships with oceanic environments that can support prosperous communities across multiple centuries? How do diverse cultural groups maintain beneficial cooperation while preserving their distinctive identities and regional innovations? What responsibilities do contemporary societies bear toward ancient achievements in international collaboration? And what guidance can 3,000-year-old approaches to cultural exchange offer to modern communities seeking solutions for unprecedented global challenges requiring both technological innovation and social cooperation? Atlantic Bronze Age civilization serves as more than historical curiosity. It functions as living demonstration of humanity's capacity for creating beneficial networks that overcome geographical barriers while fostering cultural diversity and technological advancement through systematic approaches to peaceful cooperation and environmental stewardship. The remarkable preservation of Atlantic Bronze Age achievements through archaeological investigation reminds us that some human accomplishments transcend the boundaries of particular cultural contexts and historical circumstances, connecting us directly to ancient communities who developed sophisticated solutions to fundamental challenges that continue confronting contemporary societies attempting to balance economic prosperity with environmental sustainability, technological advancement with cultural preservation, and international cooperation with local autonomy. The systematic study of Atlantic coastal settlements, harbor installations, and ceremonial monuments provides compelling evidence that prehistoric communities possessed remarkable capabilities for creating sustainable relationships with challenging oceanic environments while maintaining cultural networks that spanned vast geographical distances through generations of peaceful exchange and mutual benefit. Watch as ongoing archaeological research continues revealing new dimensions of Atlantic Bronze Age achievement that expand our understanding of prehistoric technological capabilities while raising additional questions about the nature of sustainable development, the possibilities for international cooperation without centralized political authority, and the relationship between environmental adaptation and cultural innovation that enabled ancient communities to create prosperous societies lasting multiple centuries despite challenging climatic conditions and limited technological resources. Each new excavation and analytical technique provides answers to specific archaeological questions while simultaneously opening pathways to deeper mysteries about human potential for environmental adaptation and the international recognition that Atlantic Bronze Age civilization has achieved among contemporary scholars demonstrates the universal significance of prehistoric achievements in sustainable coastal living, peaceful international relations, and technological innovation that illuminate common patterns in how successful civilizations have addressed fundamental challenges about resource management, social organization, and cultural transmission while demonstrating both universal principles and particular innovations that contribute to comprehensive understanding of human capabilities for environmental adaptation and cultural cooperation across diverse geographical and historical circumstances. The environmental implications of Atlantic Bronze Age achievements extend beyond academic interest in prehistoric archaeology to encompass contemporary discussions about sustainable development, climate adaptation, and the relationship between technological innovation and ecological responsibility in societies seeking to maintain prosperity while protecting natural resources for future generations. The careful study of prehistoric coastal adaptation provides valuable perspectives on how ancient communities achieved sustainable relationships with oceanic environments while supporting dense populations through systematic resource management and technological innovation that enhanced rather than depleted essential ecological systems. The technological dimensions of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization invite recognition that sophisticated engineering and systematic innovation can emerge from community-based approaches to problem-solving that emphasize cooperation, knowledge sharing, and gradual improvement rather than competitive individualism or centralized control of technological development. The evidence for widespread sharing of metallurgical techniques, navigation methods, and coastal engineering solutions demonstrates how collaborative approaches to technological advancement can create beneficial outcomes for all participating communities while fostering continued innovation and cultural development. The social implications of Atlantic Bronze Age cultural networks include insights into how diverse communities can maintain beneficial relationships across geographical barriers. Through systematic attention to mutual benefit, cultural respect, and graduated exchanges that build trust and understanding over extended periods of sustained interaction. The archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric Atlantic communities achieved remarkable levels of international cooperation without sacrificing local autonomy or cultural distinctiveness, creating models for contemporary communities seeking approaches to global cooperation that enhance rather than threaten cultural diversity and regional innovation. The archaeological methodology that continues advancing understanding of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization demonstrates how systematic scientific investigation can recover comprehensive information about prehistoric achievements while serving both academic research and public education about humanity's diverse heritage and collective potential for environmental adaptation and social cooperation. The integration of advanced analytical techniques with traditional excavation methods creates permanent records of archaeological discoveries while enabling international scholarly collaboration and educational outreach that makes ancient wisdom accessible to contemporary communities seeking guidance about sustainable living and peaceful cooperation. The philosophical questions raised by studying Atlantic Bronze Age civilization in relationship to contemporary global challenges include fundamental inquiries about the nature of sustainable development, the possibilities for international cooperation without political domination, and the relationship between technological innovation and social responsibility that connects ancient achievements with modern concerns about creating beneficial relationships between human communities and natural environments while fostering cultural diversity and technological advancement that serves both immediate needs and long-term species survival. The comparative significance of Atlantic Bronze Age civilization extends beyond its immediate historical importance to encompass its contribution to understanding human capabilities for creating sustainable civilizations that maintain prosperity while protecting environmental resources, foster technological innovation while preserving cultural traditions, and enable international cooperation while respecting local autonomy and regional diversity. The Atlantic example demonstrates how systematic attention to mutual benefit and environmental responsibility can create lasting prosperity and cultural achievement that serves both participating communities and broader human development. The educational value of studying Atlantic Bronze Age civilization includes its demonstration of alternative approaches to technological development, social organization, and international relations that achieved remarkable success through cooperative rather than competitive principles while maintaining environmental sustainability and cultural diversity that enriched rather than threatened overall civilization development. The careful presentation of this research provides valuable resources for contemporary communities seeking historical precedents for beneficial approaches to global challenges requiring both international cooperation and local innovation. The future directions of Atlantic studies will likely include continued archaeological investigation that reveals additional evidence of prehistoric achievement, theoretical research that explores connections with contemporary sustainability science, and practical applications that integrate ancient wisdom with modern challenges requiring both systematic analysis and cultural sensitivity for addressing unprecedented global circumstances that demand wisdom transcending conventional political and economic approaches to international cooperation and environmental stewardship. As we contemplate the profound questions raised by 3 millennia of Atlantic Bronze Age achievement and its continuing relevance for contemporary global challenges, we recognize that some civilizational insights unfold gradually across generations of patient investigation and practical application, revealing their deepest meanings only to those who approach with appropriate respect for ancient wisdom, intellectual honesty about contemporary limitations, and genuine commitment to understanding both the historical significance of prehistoric achievements and their continuing relevance for modern communities seeking authentic approaches to sustainable development, international cooperation, and the eternal human quest for creating beneficial relationships between technological capabilities and environmental responsibility within the mysterious processes that govern both individual fulfillment and species survival. The gentle rhythm of eternal questions and the timeless flow of oceanic wisdom carry continuing whispers of ancient achievements and contemporary possibility that connect all generations in the shared human journey toward Understanding our place within environmental systems that transcend immediate historical circumstances while inviting each era to contribute its own discoveries to the never-ending conversation between human ingenuity and natural harmony that remains both utterly challenging and intimately accessible within all authentic approaches to sustainable civilization and international cooperation that serves both individual communities and collective human development across the vast expanse of cultural heritage and environmental stewardship.